afternoon, everybody. I think I'm standing between the checkbook and the lunch today, but I was sitting into the previous two sessions and very interesting to see how founders are building companies in the D2C space. And here I'm going to kind of share my insights on, as an investor, what would you look for when you're investing into a D2C company, as well as when founders are probably fundraising, what are the things you need to keep in mind when you're talking to investors, right? And just from the audience perspective, because this is more founders and investors, I'm not going to talk about institutional investing, right? So I'm going to more talk about, as an angel investor, how do you evaluate a D2C brand? If that is a sector thesis you are betting on, why do I believe that this is a good time to actually be an angel investor in the D2C space? And as an angel investor, what should you look for when you're actually investing? And very, very interesting in how the ecosystem has evolved in the D2C space, right? But before I start, I'm going to give a quick introduction on Let's Venture. We've been founded about 11 years now, 2013, and today we are the category leaders in the private market investing space. We have a product on Let's Venture which allows early stage investors to find early stage founders, to discover and connect to early stage founders. And we've done about 900 transactions. We've raised about 1,000 crores. We have our own Angel AIF. We have about 5,000 investors from 60 countries investing through the platform, right? And really have watched the ecosystem grow from a very close vantage point of how investors have evaluated early stage deals. We also have a growth platform. Um, sorry. Okay, we also have this is the summary of Let's Venture. So basically, we actually allow angel investors to syndicate deals on the platform. So if you are an investor who has a group of people who believe in you, who actually can bet on your own thesis, it is a great platform for syndication. We also allow founders to bring their transactions on the platform. So if you are a founder who's looking to fundraise, and you already have a small group of investors who are willing to put, suppose, a 50 lakh check, we allowed also to create founder syndicates on the platform, right? And then, of course, we also have Trica, which is a subsidiary of Let's Venture, where basically we look at growth transactions. So we allow family offices and we allow institutions to come and invest into growth and secondary transactions. Again, very interesting for us because a lot of our early stage deals then go on to the Trica platform where they go and raise much larger checks and in the tune of anything from 10 to $15 million, right? Um, I'm going to take a step back and, while there's a lot of data here on the slides, I think India is at a very, very interesting point in terms of D2C. And why is it that, we are seeing so many brands in India? There are close to more than 1,000 D2C brands today in the early stage, right? We just saw a panel where companies have scaled their revenues. We are seeing companies with 100 crore revenues very, very, a lot more today than what we saw 10 years back, right? And I think it is not just about digital marketing, it's not just about the brands, it's also about the tailwinds which is today available in the India markets. And I think as an investor, I think it's very important for you to look at how are you going to now evaluate companies on this tailwind, right? I think on the other side, if I were to look at the D2C space, there are not too many brands which have actually broken out in the market today, right? So really, as an investor, you have to also look at what are your exit opportunities when you start looking at investing. I think every D2C brand I personally meet, I'm very excited. But then you do a little bit more, you go a little bit deeper, you look at some metrics like customer love, you look at their cost of marketing, you look at their CAC, and then you probably start to think probably that this may not be the best bet as an investor to invest into the company, right? And I'm not talking about founders who are bootstrapping ventures, right? Probably, I mean, though I run Let's Venture as a platform, if I were given an option, I will bootstrap my next venture, right? Because as a founder, it gives you a lot more flexibility. It allows you to experiment, without taking somebody's capital. But I also believe that in India, to build a D2C brand completely bootstrapped is still very hard, right? Because your CAC is actually expensive, and that's why you need capital to help you get to your customers and scale quickly, right? But if you are to look at the market today, India is today the third largest growing economy in the world, right? So besides D2C, I meet a lot of investors outside India, global investors sitting in the US, sitting in Middle East, sitting in Europe, who today want to mandatorily have exposure into India markets, right? So they're like, I am actually getting FOMO. And, our narrative also back to them is, if you missed entering China in 2000, you can't miss entering India in this decade, right? Because this decade belongs to the Indian market, literally, right? Because in terms of just a lot of structural shifts, a lot of other factors which is enabling the growth in the market, right? If I were to ask a question in this crowd and just take a guess, right? What is the percentage of consuming Indians? What was the percentage probably in the early 90s? Can somebody take a guess? Like, what was the percentage? Sorry? No. No. It was less than 1%. And can somebody take a guess today what it is? Sorry? 8%. Right? But at 8%, we are very unlike China. Our GDP is being driven by a consuming Indian, like the consumption economy. It is being driven by the consumption economy, right? And again, if you take a step back on why this happened, and this is just a very interesting pattern I have seen, or just a very interesting time to be either an investor or a founder and to watch what's happening in the Indian ecosystem. See, in 2016 is when we actually saw, 2016 onwards, is when we saw Aadhaar and the digital infrastructure of India kind of start to emerge. Then we saw geo broadband penetrate, and we saw about 600 million Indians actually get access to internet. If you superimpose these two, right, if you look at access to internet and you look at a payment infrastructure, what that creates is social commerce, right? So now I can see something, I like something, I can actually go buy it, right? It's not like I only see something and I like something, but I don't know what to do about it, right? So, and that is actually spurring what is the growth of D2C brands, right? So as an investor, if you can keep that in mind, and if you can ask the right questions, I think you will be able to early identify a lot of the brands you want to invest in, right? And that's really, like, if you look at this, the big, which is basically so much of data sitting, and of course, digitization, and there is also a complexity in how you sell in India, right? Like, while I really admired that omni-channel conversation, I think we trivialize the omni-channel strategy for Indian markets, right? Because it's very different selling to a tier one customer to selling to a tier 3, 4 investor customer, right? Because they understand things very differently, right? And that's why it's also important to understand the digital adoption of the tier 3, tier 4 Indian, right? Are they looking at just Instagram, or are they looking at video? Are they looking at data? So what are the kind of different ways in which they are engaging digitally will drive the way a brand can get adopted digitally, right? And I think as an investor, it's very important, again, to look at how are the founders thinking about when they are building their venture, right? If you look at, and this is more, I think, data which we can skip, because I think this is more the ecosystem data, right? I just thought it will be interesting to look at what are the top sectors which are getting funded in 2023, and where does D2C somewhere sit in this pyramid, right? And if you look at least in Let's Venture, I think 1 out of 3 startups is somewhere a consumer-facing D2C uh, company, right? And one in, of course, 2 startup is AI-enabled for data, right? So people are now going probably a little bit ahead in terms of how they are evaluating customer preferences, how are they collecting data, how are they actually going and defining the vertical sectors where they want to actually build their brand in, right? And I think it's important again to understand this, because the faster you get to the right segment, the faster you're able to then reduce your cost of customer acquisition. Um, Again, these are just, again, a very high level kind of data which I thought would be interesting to investors. Um, Now, we just picked up some data on what are the global D2C trends we are seeing today, right? And if you were to look at the global trends, and this is more because you want to compare how the Indian market is looking vis-a-vis a global market, right? And again, India is very different in terms of how it's behaving in the consumer space. But I think there is some learning when you look at global brands, right? And how many people are actually spending online and how many people are connected online, and that goes back to the number which was there in the big billion Bharat slide, right? Which basically tells you that your TAM is really big today. But again, that TAM being big, I think you have to also look at, so there is a concept of a TAM and a SAM, right? When you look at investing, TAM is your total addressable market. A lot of founders can just whitewash you and tell you there's 1.2 billion users and this is my market. No, that's not the market, right? You have to look at the serviceable market in that 1.2 billion, right? So it is, I think, getting your addressable market right as a founder and get understanding the market right as an investor will again help you make the right decisions. Again, this I'm again talking about guidance and how you would look at if you're going to invest into a D2C company, right? And what should investors look for, and how should founders then pitch to investors, because you want good investors to come onto your cap table, right? If you look at India's D2C sector, right? We think that this market is going to get to about 100 billion in by 2025, right? And we are seeing acquisitions, we are seeing listings happening. So finally, the D2C market is actually starting to return money, right? And I used to have a very interesting question which would come to me, and I'm not a brand today, right? In the sense that we're not a D2C company. But a lot of people would ask us, how did you go build the Let's Venture brand? Because it's actually pretty hard to build a brand in India, right? And with kind of minimal cost, with not spending so much money. And really, there are some playbooks which we followed at Let's Venture. But I think for me, the thing which stands out the most is authenticity, right? So when you're building anything, irrespective of whether it's a consumer brand, it's a online brand, it's whatever brand, right? I think the authenticity and listening to the voice of the customer becomes the key ingredient for you to probably go build a very credible brand at minimum marketing cost, right? Because I think marketing can bring the customer to you, but for the customer to transact with you, you have to have a product which the customer loves, right? And I think that is the difference between when people start looking at how good this brand is, right? But the interesting part is, of course, the first thing is we are starting to see exits in D2C. Of course, you know Mama Earth was probably the shortest IPO, even by any standards for an Indian startup, and that was also a D2C brand, right? Which actually went IPO. So there are playbooks today which founders can refer to, which investors can refer to when they actually look at investing, right? If you look at 2023, we actually saw there was a slowdown in funding, right? But we continue to see investments happening in the consumer space, right? So it was not like money completely disappeared. And I think that also goes back to our thesis that good companies, good founders will always find capital irrespective of which turn they are in. If it's an upturn or a downturn, you will find capital if you are building something which is valuable to your shareholder, right? And of course, what we are also seeing is lot of vertical brands coming up. Very niche categories are now coming up, right? And in those niche categories, you have to really find out what is your SAM, right? So really understand the SAM, because I think while you can get to a particular number in terms of revenue, in this room, we are now talking about investor preference, right? So if you are going to invest in a company which will never go beyond 200 crores, and then you have to say that if I entered at a particular valuation and the company is never going to exceed 200 crores, what is the multiple on my investment? And is this investment worthwhile my time and my capital, right? So we are not questioning here the value of the brand being created at 200. We are questioning the value to the investor for the brand, because are you then seeing a multiple of at least 5 to 10x, right? Because in private market investing, that's why you come and invest into private markets, right? Because we traditionally say that that's the only way to non-linear create wealth, where you can find those two probably winners that will probably cover your entire portfolio, right? So and that's why it's a little nuanced, the discussion, when you start talking about investments into a D2C space, right? Or into any kind of company. Just some insights again, from the Indian consumer, and this is more based on our own interactions with our founders. But if you look at LV's D2C, I think there are a lot of brands which are not here. There is where I am, in fact, personally an investor, and I think we miss putting those logos. I am an investor in Jiva. I am an investor in Cure Skin, right? Again, invested in them, and I'll tell you how I found them and how I decided to invest into them. Because I think as an investor, it will give you a good cue into how do you find the brand where you invest in, right? And I think that is the fun about angel investing, or that's the fun about being an investor, right? If you look at how do you evaluate D2C companies, I don't think that we have a Yes. I don't think that we have a separate kind of evaluation criteria for D2C companies. It follows the typical criteria of how you would look at angel investing, which is basically find the founder, find founder market fit. I always call it founder market fit. That is, does the founder know how to launch a product in this market, right? And does he have enough background? And of course, how big is the addressable market? And I think those constants stay the same. I'll give you two quick examples. One is, I was having a podcast with Kunal Shah. He's also my, Kunal Bahel. He's also my investor in Let's Venture. But the way he found Mamaearth is that, they were new parents and his wife really loved the product because she thought that it can also be used for her child. And then he reached out to find out who the founders were. And then he decided that he would invest because he said, it's such a good product. I love the product, assuming that most of the consumers will love the product. Similarly with Jiva, I wanted to do Diwali gifts for Let's Venture. I posted saying that, is there any company where I can buy Diwali gifts? And Ishendra reached out. He worked with me personally during COVID, sent me samples. I loved the way he worked with me. And I said, are you raising a round? I would love to put a check. So sometimes you just write the check because you just think that you love the founder, you love the vision. Because at that early stage where this audience is going to invest, very hard to look at business metrics, look at a lot of things. I think you look at founder hustle, you look at their understanding of how to penetrate markets. I think that could be a good parameter in terms of looking at how would you invest into founders. I think time is up. But if there are any questions, maybe I can take one question. I think people are hungry. I typically don't give an answer because I like to be pragmatic about how you look at private market investing. What I would say is that if you're willing to forget your investment once you've written the check and you are willing to take that risk, that's the first step, right? But having gone beyond the first step, today, because I think 2 years back, the markets were at its peak. So I think people who've invested at that peak market have lost a lot of, there has been value erosion there, right? So the multiples have changed quite a bit. But like Jiva, I was just reading an article where the first check investor in Jiva, they exited at 75x multiple in this current round, right? Where Premji Invest came in. So it can be anywhere from 0 to 75x to 100x. I know a friend who had invested in Zomato. I think he had put about 20 lakhs. That was worth close to 100 crores when it went IPO. So it's anybody's luck there. But like I said, I wouldn't go invest looking at the multiple. I would go invest because I really love the product. I love the founder, because you don't mind losing money on someone whom you really like. You don't want to not like the founder and put money because somebody else put. Because if the company doesn't do well, you also didn't enjoy the entire journey of investing. So that's my philosophy of how I look at investing. Thanks. Yes. One last question. Yes. 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 Yeah, so I think you should do your homework. Is look at the sector you are in, look at benchmarks, look at equivalent companies who've raised money, right? At what valuations, right? And how have they done generally after they've raised money? That is one, right? That's a good way to think about it. Second is, if you think capital is required to scale your business. So today, if you are at, and I'm just giving a hypothetical example, if you are at 10 crores, I put in another 5 crores, and I think I can get to about 50 crores in revenue, not GMV. I'm not talking about GMV at all, right? Because GMV is, it is real BS when it starts to go into investing, because then you have to go back to margins, you have to look at what's your actual take rate on the GMV. So if your revenues is, suppose, going to multiply 5 times because you put in some capital, you should go for it. Third is, if you think debt can solve your working capital problem, because sometimes founders take equity money because they want to solve for a working capital problem, you should probably go take debt. Fourth is, just to coming back to your point, don't feel guilty about investors losing money. I think they need to do their homework too when they invest into you, and they should know their risks when they invest into you. I think you can only take so much responsibility, because you have to, once you take investor money, you have to be responsible, you have to have good governance. You should not be doing anything you wouldn't do without you, which you would do with your own money. All of that, right? So all of that ethical building of companies continues, but I think the risk is on everybody, right? This is probably your only startup. This is probably the investor's one of his portfolio companies. So I think somewhere, if you keep that perspective, then you can take a very mature decision in how do you look at funding.